Hello and welcome to today's segment of Our Ventura TV. My name is George Alger. Today's topic is overcoming drugs. And our guest expert is Bobby Wiggins, who is a drug educator from Narconon Ojai. Welcome, Bobby.
Thank you so much, George. Good to be here.
So how did you get into drug education?
Well, I overcame a lifelong drug addiction myself, actually in 1978 through the help of Narconon, and became a counselor, started counseling, and then one day, 1984, I was asked to go out and speak to 100 school children in South Boston, Massachusetts. I went out and I spoke to them, and I found that their reactions were phenomenal to what I had to say. You know, they were just hungry for the information and hungry to know exactly what drugs were and what they did. And that was the start.
Wow, so let's get into the education part in just a couple moments. Let's actually address this overcoming the drugs. So speak to that.
Sure. I mean, I started taking drugs when I was 14 years old. Unfortunately, like a lot of kids, alcohol, marijuana, that use increased. Somehow I got accepted to college, and when I got to college, the usage probably 5x'd. You know, I had more freedom. I got involved with cocaine, more alcohol, pills, speed to take the tests, you know, to pass your finals in college. And pretty much had to leave college after the third year and begin to travel around the country just to stay away from that scene. Not a great career move, but in 1974, I opened up a nightclub. And I operated that nightclub for 4 years. The nightclub scene is not conducive to sobriety. And I took the fast road down. I won't get into details, but it was pretty much a train wreck. I had a friend from college who had some concern and basically said, "Hey, do you think it's time to make a change?" And she caught me at exactly the right point. So we jumped in her car, drove 300 miles, and found a Narconon program down in New London, Connecticut. That was an adventure. I mean, people would look at me, and I looked pretty normal. I'm the owner of a nightclub. Hi, how you doing? Meet and greet. But inside my head, it was a nightmare. I couldn't stop taking drugs. I'd wake up in the morning, I'd set up my bar, and the only way I could get my hands to stop shaking was to basically drink about a half a glass of tequila and then chase it down with a beer. And after about the 35 seconds, the hands would stop shaking and I'd be able to function, quote unquote. And that's how my whole day went, you know, day after day, month after month. For 2 years, I was pretty much in that condition. So anyway, my friend found this rehab called Narconon, which is holistic. A lot of exercise, vitamins, minerals, stuff like that. And I was able to get my life back together. So that was 1978. That was a couple of years ago.
That it was, but yet we still have a problem of people getting their life really wrapped around a pole with drugs.
Oh, it's unbelievable right now. I mean, I feel so bad for this generation because drugs are, in the last 15 years, drugs have become so much more easily accessible with all the electronic media. You can order drugs on your phone. You know, it's just phenomenal what the new communication systems have done in a positive way, but also with the kids and the problems they have with drugs. It's just too easy access today.
And do you happen to have statistics regarding drug use? Has drug use actually gone down over the decades, or has it gone up, or is it staying the same?
Well, it's not very widely publicized, but we have a heroin epidemic, for one thing, in this country. If you look at a lot of the news out of Boston, they're very forthcoming in letting people know what an epidemic it is. But heroin has hit this country like a freight train again. And that, people think that's used to be, a lot of people, but it is the worst epidemic I've seen since I've been involved in drug education and drug rehabilitation over the last 40 years. It's really like a freight train right now.
Wasn't aware of that. Can you speak to this? I have heard that even something like marijuana, which, for anyone who's been around, you have some familiarity with it, but I've heard that what would be classified as marijuana nowadays is way more potent than it was back in the 70s.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you had about a 3% tetrahydrocannabinol. So the audience understands, tetrahydrocannabinol is the active ingredient in marijuana, or weed, if you may, that gets the person high. It's the poison molecule in the marijuana itself, and it creates the drug high. 1980, for instance, it was around 3% content in the weed. Right now, it's running 15%, sometimes as much as 55% THC content. So it's not your... What was the commercial that Ringo Starr used to do? This is not your father's Oldsmobile.
Yeah.
Well, this is not your father's marijuana.
Okay.
At all. It's powerful, powerful stuff, supposedly non-addictive, and yet we have people entering Narconon centers all over the place that's the only drug they're using, and it's a pretty heavy addiction. That's what we find. And yet the promotion on it is it's not addictive. I find that to be completely the opposite. Hands-on with my own eyes and working with people.
Let's speak a little bit more about overcoming drug addiction. All right. So,
sure.
If someone themselves is either recognizing they may be addicted, or there's someone in their life that they consider is addictive, what would you say would be some steps to help a person or help yourself?
Oh, sure. In terms of getting somebody into rehab, you mean, or getting someone some sort of help?
Yeah, in fact, I would even wonder, I would think going into rehab is probably a big step. Is there earlier steps that can sort of pave the way for overcoming drug addiction that can either help them get into a rehab situation or overcome it themselves?
Sure. There's a lot of professionals out there today, interventionists, people like that. I think a lot of times parents feel completely helpless. They've got a son or a daughter and they know they're using. But of course, the guy who has the drug problem, me included, would say, they'd fluff it over and they'd say, oh, it's fine. I know I got in that car accident. I know I was in trouble, but that was last month. And I got very expert at conning my parents, my relatives, et cetera, just into thinking, well, he's fine now. That's not usually the case. And then it'll rear its head again and the parent will go, and they just don't know what to do. My strongest recommendation is that they get on the phone, call around, find a rehab, right? Get it lined up, and then have the rehab set up an interventionist for them. These guys are pros. They know exactly how to do it. They know exactly how to train the parent or the wife or the husband or whoever it is that's going to be working with the addict. They know how to train them on exactly what to say, exactly what to do, exactly what not to do, and they sort of take the lead in the whole thing. That's the biggest problem, is the person, like myself, I'll be all right. I can get out of this. I'm fine. Just the whole heavy denial scene. And it's not even so much denial. It's just the fact that the person knows he has a problem, but he feels that he can overcome it himself. It's a pride thing, more than anything. And, the drug grabs hold, and, there's moments of lucidity during the day where the guy goes, yeah, I gotta do something. But those moments are very short-lived, 15-minute windows, stuff like that. I guess what I'm saying is the addict in his heart wants help. He wants someone to take control. But then the pride factor keeps the parents away, keeps the wife away, whatever the situation is. So yeah, that is my advice, is that they pick up the phone, they look at rehabs. If it's not Narconon, it's another rehab, just any kind of help. And that counselor at the other end, they can guide them to the correct.
Can you sort of describe in brief terms what intervention encompasses?
Sure. It's a guy who does it for a living, and he will line up, he'll sit down with the parents, and he'll say, okay, who are the strongest members of the family? In other words, there's a tough love aspect to it, right? In the fashion that you don't give in. You don't listen to the thing you've heard 50 million times that, okay, I've handled it, I really don't have a problem now, blah, 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 blah. The guy's saying that, and on Saturday night he got arrested, We actually have that kind of thing. So you get the strongest family members together, and the interventionist goes over, okay, exactly what you do, exactly what you say, where we meet. Okay, if he says A, you say B. And then he's going to say A again, and then you say B again. Never get upset. He kind of drills the family into never getting upset. Don't lose your cool, but be persistent and be strong. And then the interventionist will take the final steps of that intervention, because he basically knows what he's doing. When we say intervention, the guy's killing himself, basically, slowly or rapidly. And there has to be someone to intervene before the addict falls off the cliff. And that's, in a nutshell, that's what intervention is.
Okay. So there's a lot more I'd like to discuss with you, but we're just about out of time. So can we get a website that viewers can go to for more information? And is there a summating message you'd like to convey to the viewers?
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, our website is Narconon Ojai.org. Once again, that's narcononojai.org. Feel free, just Google us, and we have counselors there that can help. If they do the Narconon program, fantastic, but part of that package with us is that we get the person help somewhere. It may not be Narconon, it may, but anyway, that's the website. My message is, don't wait. I've had it very close in my life where, I've had the person with myself personally, and finally I had a friend that was strong enough to go, okay, this is stupid. Am I going to watch this guy kill himself, right? And she was strong enough and smart enough to sit down with me, not lose her cool, put me in a car, and I'm alive today. And I guarantee you I wouldn't have been if she hadn't taken those steps. So I guess that's the message.
Thank you, Bobby. This is George Alger signing off for this segment of Our Ventura TV. Until we meet again.